Hello and welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant, joining you live from Bangalore, and this time it's really on location. We are joining you from Kalari Capital Startup Accelerator K-Start. The moment you hear the word accelerator, startups, tech, you immediately think of a very geeky environment. But I must tell you, this has to be one of the most creative workspaces I've seen. Very aesthetic, but perhaps we'll dedicate another episode of Startup Central for that. Let's really kick off the show today with the headlines. And our top story today, one of India's marquee venture capital firms, Sequoia, gets embroiled in the Karti Chidambaram case. The Enforcement Directorate raids Sequoia Capital's firm premises in Bangalore in connection with the Vasan Eye Care and the Aircel-Maxis case. Our second story today is about a very special initiative. Kris Gopalakrishnan, co-founder of software firm Infosys, has launched an app called the Itihaasa to chronicle the history of Indian IT. And this is an exclusive exit interview that we've got for you from none other than Punit Soni, the former Chief Product Officer of Flipkart, who quit last week, tells us just why he did that and what the future holds for Flipkart. Who raised what this week and how does it compare to the previous week? We tell you on our weekly funding meter with Venture Intelligence. And on our special segment, Best Advice Ever, Paytm founder Vijay Shekhar Sharma tells us about the best advice he received in his career that you can benefit from. Over to the top story today, and this one has really sent shockwaves. It sent a lot of surprise among VC and startup circles right here in Bangalore, because Sequoia Capital, which is one of the marquee firms in India, marquee venture capital firms, has been raided by the Enforcement Directorate, and this is related to a probe that they are conducting with respect to Karti Chidambaram's involvement both in the Aircel-Maxis case and the Vasan Eye Care case. Now, Sequoia Capital has come out with a detailed statement on this. While they have confirmed the ED raids, they say that they have absolutely nothing to do with Aircel-Maxis and that their involvement comes in through Vasan, where they are a minority investor. In a detailed statement that they issued just a few hours back, they said that their representative VT Bharadwaj, who was Sequoia's nominee on the Vasan board last year, was on the board only till November 2015, but stepped down after the allegations by the Enforcement Directorate. They've also said that they are complying with the ED and that they have cooperated with all the information required till date. Now, just to put this in perspective for you, there's a lot of confusion about whether this is a Vasan case or an Aircel-Maxis case. The commonality here is really an entity called Advantage, allegedly promoted by Karti Chidambaram, which had business both with Aircel-Maxis and Vasan, and people allege that Sequoia bought out Karti's shares in Vasan at an inflated price. So that's really the bone of contention. That's the money trail that the ED is trying to establish. But clearly this hasn't gone down well. It sent a lot of shockwaves, a lot of questions about how this will dampen investor sentiment. And to really take that forward and get an industry perspective, we have none other than Gopal Srinivasan joining us on the show today. He is the chairman of the Indian Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, IVCA. Gopal Srinivasan, thank you so much for talking to ED Now Startup Central. First off the block, this is clearly a very surprising development. How do you react to it, and is it really warranted considering that this has scope to really impact business sentiment going forward?
I don't think I can comment on any ongoing government investigation, regardless of when it is attributed to have started. I think we must let law take its course. I think the important thing to note here is Sequoia is one of our most respected investors in the country. They've invested more than $2 billion in 150 companies. In December, they've raised a $900 million fund for India alone. I just spoke to them this morning and they reiterated to me that they believe it is a stray incident and in no way and whatsoever matter does it change their view, like everybody else, that India is the most desirable investment destination. I do not think we should overreact to a stray incident.
Mr. Srinivasan, you mentioned you spoke to them this morning. Just take us through that conversation again, because, you know, Sequoia has over 100 investee companies in India, and there's a lot of attention here from other foreign VCs, from Indian investors. So take us through what they told you and, you know, how this could impact the way they view India going forward.
Chandra, basically Sequoia, all they told me is that they believe this is a stray incident. They believe that they are cooperating fully as any respectful, high-integrity firm would with the government. They've met the government more than a dozen times in various interactions on this issue. So this raid is just one incident in that entire issue. And while, like everybody else, as all human beings, having a raid is something that we would be shaken up by, it has nothing in any way, in no manner has it affected their confidence as far as India as a market or India as a most desirable investment destination is concerned. Was broadly what I was told by Sequoia.
Mr. Srinivasan, from what we understand, the ED really seems to be probing the amount for which Sequoia bought shares in Vasan, or rather bought Karti Chidambaram's shares in Vasan. They say that this is an overinflated amount. But, you know, can the ED really get into valuation calls, considering a private equity firm raises money from limited partners? They would have their own considerations and conditions before they make any investment. Can, you know, government agencies now get into valuation calls taken by VC and PE firms?
All firms, especially those like Sequoia, and every firm is subject to enormous amount of governance. We're extremely careful about how our LP money is invested. So I would assume that any willing buyer, willing seller transaction had tremendous amount, as every decision would have, of scrutiny and of careful understanding of the opportunity. Now, if somebody else sees it differently, it is their call. But if we look at investments, and especially the venture stage and late stage venture in this industry, it's quite difficult, I think, for 5 people to agree on what is a fair valuation. We have to trust the investors who have taken the entire reputational and economic responsibility to do what is right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivasan, for really giving us the industry perspective on this very important development. I think it's something that we will be tracking closely in the next few days as well. But moving on from that to a positive story, I would say, Itihaasa this week. And like the name suggests, this app really chronicles the history of Indian IT through the last few decades, through voices, through very senior voices. I mean, they have got interviews with Azim Premji, N.R. Narayan Murthy, F.C. Kohli, really the founding fathers of the industry, and also professors of institutes who facilitated the growth and revolution of the Indian IT industry. I'm sure there's a lot that the current crop of consumer internet startup firms can learn from this. We caught up with Kris on this initiative, its impact, and what startups can really learn from this. Let's listen in.
I wanted to document the history of Indian IT. It's an industry that has significant impact. It changed the perception about India. It created 3.5 million jobs, $160 billion in revenue. And I wanted to capture the history in the voices, in the words of the people who played a significant role in making that history. So, early on I said, okay, we will videotape interviews with these people. Then I started thinking about once I do that, how do I present it? How do I publish it? One option, of course, was to put these videos on YouTube or something like that as a channel. But I felt that that was not interactive enough. And if somebody wanted to, understand one question about the role played by this person, they would have to watch the entire video for maybe 40 minutes or something like that. So I felt that was not the best way to do it. So we said we will edit these videos with different axes. timeline. Of course, the interviews are all based on their own recollections across the decades, so it was easy to do that. Then we will also tag it with the topic.
And in terms of the people that you got for it, how easy or difficult was it to convince them, to come on board and talk about the challenges, the trigger points? What was the kind of response that you got?
Fantastic. I've been amazed at the time people allocated. Typically, they have to allocate 5 hours. All these people are very busy.
So you had the likes of Premji and Amurthy.
Yeah, Premji, Narayan Murthy, Ramadurai, FC Kohli, Vittal. Amazing actually that they all spent almost 5 hours working with us on this project over 2 days.
For the skeptics who would ask that, all this information is available on the internet, it's available online, there are YouTube videos, why should one come to Itihaasa for this? What would you tell them?
See, Itihaasa is richer because the flexibility it provides you for exploring something.
Right.
Like I said, if you want to watch a 40-minute video, and get 1 or 2 bits or pieces of information from that, it's not the most efficient way to do it. Here, for example, if you want to get the perspectives on NASSCOM across 6 different people who have talked about it, you can do that. And it's very easy to do that. You can search the tags in the video and things like that. You can create playlists on a specific topic of your interest. And we have some ready-made playlists in the app, along with the app itself, which allows you to explore some subject.
And do you think, you will also keep updating this with perhaps interviews of, leaders today to talk about the future, or how is this, sort of going to go on a continuous basis for you?
One is to add more people, including the current leadership of the industry and things like that. That's one way this will be taken forward. The other way is, now that the platform exists, this platform can be used to document other history projects, history of an organization, or history of...
So will we see a history of Infosys soon?
Maybe. We have not thought about it, I have not thought about it, but it's definitely possible, documenting a history of an organization from multiple perspectives. Very much possible.
And what was the biggest learning for you, through all this? Maybe one thing that you learned, or one moment that you highlighted for Itihaasa?
There are actually many moments actually, but if I want to just mention one, the thought about computer as a tool for development of India happened way back in 1950. I had never thought that it would have gone back so much, because my involvement in the industry happened in the late 70s.
Right.
But 20 years back from that point onwards, people had been working in creating this industry. That's one very interesting thing I learned from this project.
But the actual takeoff happened, only in the 80s. So do you think we missed an opportunity there to do even more as far as IT and IT services?
No, this project clearly proves that we were on par from day one. We grew the industry at the right time. We were at the right place, and we had done the right things. I strongly believe from this project that we had done the right things in making this happen. This was the first sector, probably one of the first sectors that was open for 100% foreign direct investment. So I believe that we did the right thing for this industry to take root in India.
It's certainly an app that I'm going to spend a lot of time on over the next few weeks. With that, we head into a short break, but don't go anywhere, because on the other side, we have Punit Soni, who just quit Flipkart as Chief Product Officer, joining us. This is his first and exclusive exit interview. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and as we promised, that exclusive exit interview with Punit Soni. Now remember, he was one of the high-profile hires from Silicon Valley that Flipkart made, and the third big exit in recent months after Mukesh Bansal and Ankit Nagori. Punit Soni, of course, was the Chief Product Officer of the company, spearheading many key initiatives. Punit, thank you so much for talking to 18 Hour Startup Central. You know, considering you joined just a year back, March 2015, what led to the exit I mean, what really triggered your exit at the end of it?
You know, I think it's been an interesting professional and personal journey for me over the last year. You know, I have been in Google before this for quite a long time, and this was in many ways a big professional step for me. I wanted to come to India, experience it, work in the middle of some interesting problems, challenges, and people, and see where things go from here. I think what I've realized over the last year slowly and steadily is that my interests lie in certain areas that might be slightly orthogonal from what Flipkart is working on and e-commerce is about. And so over time, I have kind of been asking myself, what should I focus my energies on? And there's sufficient deviation between that and Flipkart's core business that it's time for me to go do something else.
Punit, what about, you know, initiatives such as Ping or even the app-only strategy? Did the muted response to these sort of disillusion you, leading to your exit?
No, not at all. You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of noise around app-only strategy. The truth is, Flipkart's ambitions for app-only strategy had been around before I had even joined. In fact, in the last year, we have actually brought the Flipkart mobile website back and the Flipkart desktop back. I have always consistently believed that a mobile-only strategy is a strategy of mindset, not channel. And in terms of channel, we should always go where the consumer has gone. And I think those things have gone very well. So no disillusionment from that perspective. E-commerce is going to be big, Chandra. I think it's going to be huge. India will see a very significant winner in this space. I think that, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and Flipkart, by the way, is positioned rightfully so as the leader and has a shot at actually doing this. But perhaps it's time for me to go do something else, something probably closer to my passion.
But what is closer to your heart then, Punit? What will we see you doing going forward?
We'll talk about the details of that probably in a few months. I guess the basic framework of that is I've been spending some time thinking about some pretty significant existential issues that I see in the world. I always have wondered if there was a way to use technology to solve those kind of things. I'm not ready yet to talk about the exact spaces. There's a couple of areas that are very interesting. What I intend to do, however, is actually kick off a startup. I have a very interesting, stellar partner. We're gonna work on it together, and we'll find the product market fit. I've always believed that the way to actually solve problems is to actually identify a problem space first, and then spend time talking to the users who are affected by the problem and let them drive the solution, the product that has to be built. There is some time for me to clarify that. What I just have right now is broad spaces, and I want to be discreet about it till I actually figure it out a little bit better.
Will we see you staying back in India then, or moving back to the Valley? What's the plan as far as that is concerned?
You know, I've always said that my home is in US and my heart is in India, and so whatever I do has to have a connection with both of those two places. My plan is to move back to the Valley. That's where my friends are. That's where my investors are. That's where my, most of my, ecosystem of things are. It's relatively easy for me to build something or start something from there. But it will have an India angle. What kind of an angle, we'll have to just wait and see. But it will be back to the Valley for me.
Punit, but talking about the entire market here, do you think that there will still be room for 5 horizontal marketplaces in India, considering that consumer internet e-commerce is a winner takes all in most mature markets such as US and China? What is your own reading into that going forward?
Sure. I think, the e-commerce space in India is absolutely very challenging. It's very interesting. There's a lot of potential in it, but it is also a very difficult market, mostly probably set up because of the cycle of valuations, GMV growth, discounts, valuation, GMV growth, and so on and so forth that we have already seen in the market. I think it's important to actually break that. A few ways that it could be broken is if there's way more discipline and rigor around the entire supply chain of e-commerce. Another way would be if there was innovation. And innovation actually doesn't mean flashy things like we'll build AI and VR and drones and throw them out or build new kinds of apps. Innovation actually means eking out and grinding out every single ounce of margin from the entire supply chain of e-commerce. I think that slowly and steadily that rigor is setting into the market. Now, history has said, and if you look at precedents in other developed markets, typically e-commerce is the kind of space which is a winner takes all. So I do believe that there will be a very substantial winner, a single winner, and then there will be probably a second player who will have the rest of the market. If you look at something like China, about 70% is Alibaba and then 30% is the next one. I think that something similar to that will happen in India too. In US, it's a completely different story. It's completely and absolutely dominated by Amazon. But I don't expect a market where you're going to see 3 or 4 players who are doing reasonably well. It will be consolidated and there will be a big winner over the years and then the next one. And I pray and hope, and I'm very confident that Flipkart has a shot at being that.
Punit, will you be willing to stick your neck out and tell us where Flipkart is going to be? Is it going to be the bigger winner, the second, take the second place? We really want you to give us your view before we let you go.
I'm not going to stick my neck out to that one. I think that, I'm a Flipster person. I have spent time in the company. I love the company. My team is phenomenal. It's probably the best product team outside of US at this point of time. If I had to hedge my bets, I would say that Flipkart has a very big shot at actually being that company. It's all about execution. It's all about rigor. And I'm very hopeful that happens. And, about me, I have, been very bullish about India. My plan is to keep advising, investing, talking to as many startups as I can and helping in any way I can if it's possible.
Thank you so much for that exit interview, Punit. Soni here is wishing you the very best, and we are of course going to keep a close eye on the startup that you will start from Silicon Valley. It's really back to square one for Punit, Soni. But from that we move on to the funding meter for last week, our venture intelligence funding meter, and that really doesn't look too encouraging. So if you really look at the week between April 9th to April 15th, there were about 4 deals worth $33 million. Out of this, the top VC investments include Nestaway, which raised a $30 million follow-up round. Renew-Buy raised $1 million, Credex raised $750,000 from Prime Ventures, and Leap Skills attracted funding from Mentera. Other notable deals include Sequoia India, which Naturals, and also Fresh Desk that acquired Airwood. Remember, that story broke on ET Now Startup Central. But from that, we move on to our special segment for the day. We're talking about best advice ever. And to really share the best advice that he got, we have Paytm's founder and CEO Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Hear out the best advice he got in his career that you can benefit from.
It's not price, it's value. It is so easy to understand value as price, but value is a larger number, larger proposition. Price is one part of the value. So always offer great value to your customer, maybe not the best price to the customer.
Short and sweet advice coming there from Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Customer comes first. But with that, we move on to the final segment of the day, which is Number Crunch. And the number we are crunching for you today is 100 crore rupees. Now, why is 100 crore significant? Believe it or not, that's the total sales for DS Group's Pulse Candy within 8 months. Now, that's a record that's only been equaled by Coca-Cola's Coke Zero. So, I mean, I don't know how many of you have binged on Pulse Candy, but I can't believe that they've managed to clock 100 crore rupees in 8 months flat. That's quite a feat, and I guess a genuine example of Make in India that's worked so well. But with that, we come to the end of this special edition of Startup Central from Kalari Startup Accelerator right here in Bangalore. We certainly hope you enjoyed the show.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.